Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. Today's guest lives within a stone's throw of where I live in Orlando, Florida, and she's one of many local people I try to get on the podcast over time. And this is Katrina Tecxidor. She has a company called FanFitGo, which officially launched earlier this year, which specializes in getting us geeks and fans fit, and it's all 100% online, which is the way to do it nowadays. She is a cosplayer who also specializes in DC cosplay. She thinks Batgirl is life and is a comic movie buff. Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, Katrina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So let's jump right in. You are a DC girl, is that correct?
Yes, I love all my comic books, but DC definitely has me.
How did you get into DC comic books? When was the start of it? When you were a wee little child?
Yes, I would say I grew up on the Batman animated series. I literally grew up with all the classic DC animated shows.
Okay.
What I would consider classic, 90s to early 2000s.
Right. Okay. So were you, let's see here, I'm just going to guess late elementary or middle school at that time? Definitely elementary. More middle school is kind of obviously my better memories with the DC animated universe. And what was it that drew you into it?
I would say the depth of Batman as a character. I remember at first liking him just because he's cool. He's Batman. He's awesome. He's doing all these things, running around fighting crime 1 minute, solving mysteries. It was always very eye-catching. And then when I got older, I started appreciating him as a character, learning about his background and everything. And as I got older, the more I learned about him, the more complex I got into it. It was just like a constant learning experience, and even now I'm learning new things about him as a character, so that's why I love him.
Right, that show was amazing. It's still probably one of the best Batman renditions that's not comic book ever. Even putting it up there with like the Batman Begins and Dark Knight movie series by Christopher Nolan. Yeah.
Very, very, very well done, and holds up very well, because I could watch the series again from the beginning, and I like it generally, not just because of the nostalgia of it, but in general it's very well made.
Absolutely. And it's not really dated because of the way that they set it in that noir style, the Gotham City style, where you're just stuck in that time period, and it's not where you see stuff now and they're on like the big chunky cell phones, and you're like, they would never have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So besides the Batman or the Batman animated series, was there a character in that series that you gravitated to?
Well, obviously Batgirl. Definitely in the the later versions where they had her in there. The Joker, I always loved the Joker. Mark Hamill's Joker is, to me, even though we've had on-screen Jokers now, that's considered my Joker for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And I know a lot of people, obviously, with Batman, the animated series, is the introduction of Harley Quinn.
Yeah. And
it's amazing to see how she's evolved since that time period into what she is now.
Yeah, and now she's her own thing. I mean, Harley Quinn cosplay is now its own genre that people are constantly trying to, change up and make different because it's so heavily saturated. But I'm seeing people come up with new, innovating things all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, you get anything from steampunk Harley to Jedi Harley to, it's almost endless the possibilities that you could do with her.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so besides the Batman animated series, were there other DC animated series out there? I can't remember them off the top of my head besides the Batman one.
Well, there's Justice League Unlimited.
Okay.
and I believe there was a regular Justice League animated, and then Justice League Unlimited.
Okay.
They've had
the Teen Titans series, a few of them.
They've had the Teen Titans series, and I do like the DC animated movies, particularly the new things that they're doing, where they're keeping them in continuity, which I think is fun.
Absolutely. In the DC universe, Batgirl is your favorite character.
Yes. Actually, she might be my favorite character overall. That's really hard to say, but definitely DC, it's very close between her and Batman. Definitely my favorite female character, for sure.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
And what is it about Batgirl? Like, what's the thing that draws you to her?
I think because we have a lot of similarities. Everything that she went through with her injury after, being shot by the Joker. I went through a car accident a year ago, and for a while it was hard for me to even walk and get around, and I was born with a back condition also. So her struggles, being able to walk and dealing with immense struggle and getting over it is kind of what I could relate to. She's also, in most iterations, a scientist or a college student. I just graduated from college, so I can relate to her and her, analytical, intellectual side. I always kind of consider myself a little bit of a detective. I always like to analyze things and ask questions and learn about different things. So personality-wise, I feel like me and her have as much similarities as you could with a fictional character.
Okay. You always look for characters that you identify with. Off the top of my head, as far as DC Universe goes, I can't pull off a character that, springs to mind. I've always been a Marvel boy myself. But, yeah, there's definitely characters. There's a character for everybody. And Batgirl does resonate with so many different people. I know when she got her redesign a couple of years ago, a lot of people were very happy with it just because it made sense. It just wasn't gratuitous, it wasn't crazy, it was just everything made sense with her new costume in the comics.
Yeah, I do like that it's very functional. Actually, I'm probably getting the new 52 or Rebirth now. I mean, her look hasn't changed in the Rebirth. I'm getting that style in for my cosplay soon, so within the next couple weeks I should be wearing that. But it's very functional for what she's doing, and the whole idea of why she has that costume is because all of her belongings got burned in a fire, so she had to kind of start on her own, and the whole point is that she's doing her own thing outside of Batman. She doesn't necessarily have a problem with Batman, but she's becoming her own superhero in her own city, Burnside. So she's branching out on her own, therefore she needs to make a costume, and it needs to be functional. So, and that's exactly what it is, and it looks like something you could go out and ride a motorcycle on. She frequently is pictured riding a motorcycle and things like that, so it's perfect for what she needs to do. And I'll tell you, compared to some of the other stuff I wear, I'm very happy to be wearing that. I mean, it truly is functional and easier to wear, so I'm going to be happy once I get that in for sure. Awesome.
I know that when I go to conventions sometimes or I see people online, I'm like, how do you go to the bathroom in that?
A lot of the costumes, it is nearly impossible without you completely starting over again, taking it all off and putting it back on. It is a process, especially for the people who dress as Batman, because there's just no way around it. It's very uncomfortable, and when they wear them, it's pretty much like a furnace underneath there. There's a guy that I know who I'm pretty close to that does Batman cosplay, and he actually has to stick little tiny washcloths in his cowl to soak up the sweat, and he has to change them out every 20-30 minutes because then it gets soaked with sweat again.
Yeah.
It's a process, and if you're talking about a lot of times you got to wear it 10 to 12 hours. So if you dress as these characters, it's more than just hey, look at me playing dress up. You have to love the character.
Absolutely. That's why right now I just go in my shorts and a shirt and have fun and get to enjoy the people that do put in that time and dedication.
Yeah.
So, On top of the animated series that we grew up with back in the 90s, DC, as opposed to Marvel's TV shows as far as like being on TV with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been hit or miss. But DC shows have been pretty much the exception, with amazing storytelling across the board of the 4 shows that they've got going on now.
Mm-hmm.
Which show, do you have a favorite? We've got Arrow, we've got The Flash, we've got Legends of Tomorrow, and then Supergirl, which made its transition to the CW last year.
I would say that the Flash definitely is my favorite. There's no like comparison between that and anything else, and honestly, I think not just DC shows, but in general, I think it's one of the best shows out there.
As far as the DC shows go, is it that The Flash is more, it's not as dark as Arrow, and it's got like a more lighthearted tone overall, or is it just that you connect with the characters better?
Well, I don't mind a dark tone. Actually, I kind of prefer that. And when you think about a lot of the things that happens to the Flash, it is dark, but it's just him as a character. No matter what, the Flash has always been the comic relief, kind of the lighthearted person. So it will never be that dark no matter what happens to him, because that's just not his character. But Grant Gustin, the actor who plays the Flash, he just does it so well. And the whole group dynamic, every single person stands out on their own to me, and they're memorable, and every scene they're in is just great. And they have, all the iconic villains on there that, that are important, and they're doing it right. And they've never had a lull. Like, they've never had, even with a filler episode, their filler episodes will have characters like King Shark in it. That's a hell of a good filler episode, if you ask me, to have King Shark in there, Gorilla Grodd, an interesting character. And, they sometimes the CGI could be like a tad bit cheesy, but for their budget, what they do is just amazing. Like, even the crew, because I won't just watch the shows, I'll watch commentary about the shows. I try to read articles from the creators and everything like that. And,
right.
And they really do love the characters. So that makes it special for me that it's not just a job. They really do take it seriously.
Absolutely. I know when they just released the announcements. We're recording this in January, and they just announced that they are picking up all the shows for another season.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like, the actors are just so happy to be playing these characters and doing the roles, whether it's on Arrow, Flash, Supergirl. Like, they're just so thrilled to be on, like, parts of those shows, to be those characters.
Yeah, and they tweet a lot. I'm not on Twitter, but I kind of see what they post, because people will repost it, on Facebook, screenshot it, and they like to tease the fans, like, oh, we got a surprise coming up, and they put out like pictures where it's like, okay, let's analyze this and figure out what it is. They have fun interacting with the fans. They do live Facebook videos where they answer questions from fans in real time. So it's really fun, and you could tell it's not just something that they're told to do, that they actually like talking to the fans. And I've been to many conventions, and I've seen lots of panels, and I haven't been able to get a signed autograph from anybody on the show, but and anytime I see them, the line is just so big that I can't even like begin to sit on the line. But even as soon as they start the lines and they're there, they'll have, who knows, even hundreds of people showing up. And even when I come back hours later, oh wow, people are still in line. They always look happy to be there.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't even imagine how many hours a day they work, though, on top of that.
Right, exactly. I remember when they announced that they were doing the crossover episode between the shows, and I think Stephen Amell had posted a picture of just, like, everyone's boots. Like, they were all wearing their boots, and he just took a picture of their feet, and it's like those kind of moments where it's like, oh my gosh, it's happening. And as a person who didn't grow up, like, with DC Comics, these TV shows have really been a nice, like, entry point into that world.
Definitely. And the good thing is that they go with certain storylines, but they don't completely stick to it. So you don't have to sit there and say, okay, well, they're doing this storyline. I have to read up on it. You know, you could do your research on certain things that they're touching on. Like Flashpoint was completely different on the show than what it was in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Completely and utterly different. But certain beats they touched on. So you're gonna get their own story, but with homages to different things. I think that's why so many people like it, because your general audiences could see that and fall in love with the characters, and then your comic book people will say, oh, they did a reference to Flashpoint, they did a reference to this, and they're talking about the multiverse, and then when they brought Jay Garrick in there, oh my gosh, there's another Flash in there.
Right.
And, but without confusing regular fans, even though we're talking about a multiverse, they still manage to do it in a way that everybody can understand.
Right. They take the Star Trekkiness of
Yes.
parallel universes out of it and make it simple. I think they even did a diagram on Supergirl of okay, here's my Earth, here's the other Earth, and they vibrate. Okay.
Yeah, and done.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
So of the four, you love the Flash the best, but is he your favorite character of the 4 series that's going on?
I would say he's my favorite, but then would be Supergirl. And I cosplay Supergirl too. I do my own version, not specifically from the show. Just to kind of stand out as far as other Supergirl cosplay, because it's very saturated. But Melissa Benet, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She's great, and I follow her on Facebook and Instagram too. And she's just a sweetheart. She is Supergirl. I'm in real life, that's her. I mean, all she has to do is put a cape on, and she's the character. It's great.
Yeah, Supergirl was one of those shows where I didn't get into it until late, and a lot of my friends had said, oh, you need to check it out. It's just really good, even though I think at the beginning the CGI wasn't as where it needed to be occasionally, but the story was there, the characters were there, and it was really just sweet. It's like a sweet show. Yeah.
Oh, she's great. She's perfect. And now there's Martian Manhunter in there. We have Miss Martian. We have Mon-El, Superboy. I mean, they're starting to have their team line up just like, Arrow and Flash and all those other shows.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Which is good. Now that she's in the CW, they're sticking with the formula that works with her, and it's working. And I'm so glad that they did that. And the crossovers that they did this year, I mean, it was just a start, but it was a good start too.
Exactly. And with that simple explanation of from Cisco, oh, here's this wristband, and we can, totally hang out now.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, and that's all they need to do. And I think eventually they'll kind of merge their herbs, but I think it'll be a while before they get there. But now that they did that, they have their reason or their way to contact her. So and it was simple.
Right. If there was a character from the DC universe that, let's say they're doing season 6 of Arrow next year.
Mm-hmm.
So Arrow in the next, let's say, 2 years is going to wrap up, and they're going to get a character from the DC universe as a replacement character. Who would you choose for a show?
Wow, that's really hard. I mean, come on, I'm going to say Batgirl just because she's my favorite, but it would be really hard to do any of the Gotham characters without having a Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could see you doing your own standalone Batgirl, your own standalone Nightwing, and maybe doing the same thing that they did at Supergirl first, where you tease Superman, but you don't have him in right away, and you work up to that point so that maybe you get the right casting. I know it's a lot harder to do, or I think it would probably be a lot harder right now to do a Batman on a show than a Superman, I think, because a lot of fans are going to be very nitpicky on how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
But you could cross that bridge later. You could just very lightly tease him or not even talk about him until you're in a second or third season, really, because Batgirl's her own character. A Nightwing is definitely his own character. Nightwing took on the role of Batman before, and he's very, very capable of taking care of himself. I think that to complement Supergirl, of course, you could easily have a Batgirl show up maybe on a Supergirl show and eventually give her her own show.
Right.
I think that's it. That's entirely possible, and have it from the opposite end, where you have more of your darker, gritty city and a girl leading her way on in a different type of thing. And when they have the crossover, we could have a girl power crossover. There you go. With Supergirl and Batgirl, my two favorite characters together. Also, are you kidding? Yes, I definitely want that.
Make it happen. Let's go.
No question. Yeah, make it happen, DC. Make my dreams happen,
So, we have a new video game series that came out also, again, DC related, that came out earlier, I think, not earlier this year, but at the end of 2016, from the Telltale people, and that was the Batman Telltale series.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a fan are you of it?
Okay, so I've played it a little, just being at friends' houses, and I honestly saw pretty much the whole thing in a walkthrough on YouTube, because certain things I'm like, I gotta know, like I spoiled myself, and it's great. It's great. I mean, for a game where you're just playing with their reality and you're choosing what direction they go on, it's very engaging, and I like games like that. I actually played the Game of Thrones Telltale a while ago, whenever it came out. It was years ago, and I liked it. I like that style of gameplay where you can influence what happens.
Did they do a good job with fitting that type of storytelling with the Batman universe?
They did. They did a very good job, and I like the style that they look. That they kind of look like they're drawn, and animated at the same time. There's actually people who are cosplaying that look. Somehow they put makeup on their face and they look like they're from the Telltale games.
That's awesome.
I mean, literally, almost everything's been done. I'll look something up online and I'll be like, well, this would be cool to do. Oh, somebody did it. They got me.
They got you. The originality has been taken from you.
Oh, but there's still always your way to do it different, because I haven't seen like a Batgirl version like that where she looks like she's drawn on like that, from a sketch. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe now after I said that, somebody's like, that's a good idea.
Yep, it just popped into their head while we're talking.
Yeah,
they're listening to us.
They know.
So getting away from the superhero genre and DC in particular, you're into some other fandoms, like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings?
Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was probably my first big genre of fandom, I would say. And then Star Wars, and then DC Marvel, as in terms of delving into the world with heavy knowledge.
Well, how did you get into Lord of the Rings?
I used to go with my mom to Barnes & Noble, and she wanted me to read a book that she thought was more difficult. And she was looking at it, that was on the bestsellers list, and had read something about the reading level, and it was way higher than it was at my age. So that's what she would do. She would get me books that were at a higher reading level than where I was at. I can't even remember what grade I was in. I don't know, like maybe 5th grade? I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't remember. I know I was very young. And I started reading it, and that was the first book that I read to the point where I almost didn't sleep. From the first day, and I'm talking about like when they had the things that they would say in Elvish, or they would have like they had like the footnotes and the anecdotes, and I'd go back and I'd read like the things about the characters, the backstory, and then I'd go back to the regular story. I mean, sometimes I get 2-3 hours of sleep and just be awake, like, okay, I got to do this and go to school, and then I'm going to read again.
Right.
Like binge watching, but reading a book. Go figure. I wanted to do that,
I got those books in middle school, I think probably around 6th or 7th grade, and devoured them. And I've told different stories on different episodes of the podcast where I didn't know, like, originally Merry and Pippin, I thought they were both girls.
Oh.
Used to have nightmares from the ring wraiths.
Oh, yeah.
But it's such a good series. I remember reading The Hobbit one day and finishing it, like, in a day. I was like, how did I do that?
Yeah, they literally take you in. I think Tolkien changed the game as far as genre, because he not only made a story, he made an entire world. And without him, we wouldn't have things like Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and George R. R. Martin straight up said that, he grew up with Tolkien, he loved him, and he wanted to make his own immersive story.
Absolutely. I mean, Tolkien created the Elvish language before he even started writing Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. Now, who's your favorite character from the Lord of the Rings?
Probably Aragorn. But that's tough. If I had to pick, I would say Aragorn.
Well, you had to pick, so you picked.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you have a favorite of the books?
I would say probably The Fellowship, because I like stories where a band gets together, how the group got together.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say movie, the third one, The Return of the King.
Okay.
Fantastic movie. It deserved to get the Oscar that year. I was actually surprised, because even then I was like, fandom things or whatever, the name was for it then. I was like, fandom things don't win, but I wanted to win. And that's one of the only years I actually sat up and watched the Oscars, and I was like screaming at the television. I couldn't believe it. It was so great.
Yeah, it's very rare for like sci-fi or fantasy movies or even stuff that even borders that to get nominated, let alone like win.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of the movies?
Oh yeah, and even the Hobbit movies, which not a lot of people necessarily liked. I know that the Lord of the Rings, the regular movies were way better. But I enjoyed the Hobbit movies for, certain things. And I'm like, oh, I remember that from the book. It's exactly like the book. They definitely did a very good job of taking some of the scenes almost verbatim, and just plopping them out on the screen. So I definitely appreciated all of them, and especially the first three movies. I mean, and I won't watch it without it being the, 3.5-hour version.
Okay.
And I will sit there, maybe once a year, I would say I have my binge watching all of it. If I know I have a weekend and I'm going to be home, I'll put them all on, at least once a year. I try to do that.
Yeah, I got, when I was engaged to my wife, she had never seen the Lord of the Rings movies at that time, and so we went to Walmart at the time and got groceries and snacks and drinks, and I had all the extended editions at that point, and it was 10 o'clock in the morning we started, and I think we ended at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Just so good. I mean, it's definitely something where you can't do it all the time at this point, but
yeah,
carving a 3.5 or 4 hour chunk for one movie, that's doable.
Yeah. Probably between all the movies, it would take an entire 10 hours at least, or 12 hours at least. Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially if you're watching the extended editions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're hitting about the 12-hour, 13-hour mark for all three of them.
Oh.
Okay, and Star Wars, the same thing. You first was Lord of the Rings, then comes Star Wars.
Then probably would come Star Wars. The movies, I haven't read I haven't read any of the books, and I have a few of the comics. Haven't really gotten a chance to read them, although I have watched videos kind of describing some of the comics in the new canon.
Okay.
Since Disney took over and everything like that, and the movies, of course, I've just loved, and even some of the prequels, for what it's worth. Particularly the third one of the prequels, especially the end fight. Between Anakin and Obi-Wan was just great. I mean, that's one of my favorite fight scenes, and it lasted for a while. I mean, that was just great. But the Force Awakens is pretty up there with my favorite movies. I don't know how I would categorize it, but it's definitely up there. I really, really like The Force Awakens. And
hopefully by now you've seen Rogue One as well.
Yes. I do like Rogue One a lot, but I kind of was hoping, I don't know, I kind of was hoping wishfully that some of the characters would come out of it. I know this is spoilers, but yeah, it's still technically out. So, but yeah, we won't go there then. But I was like, oh man. And the robot, K2SO, the robot was my favorite character.
Yep, stole the show, stole the whole movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's weird to say because he was a robot, but I mean, And what's his name with the staff? I can't remember the character's name. I'm so sorry.
Is it the blind character, Chirrut?
Yes. He was fantastic. I wish they would have given him more screen time, but that he wasn't meant for that in the script. I get it. But Donnie Yen, if I'm saying his name right, that's the actor.
Yep.
Oh my God, was he fantastic?
He was.
He was fantastic.
It was him and Baze, who's like his buddy best friend, or if you take it as some people do, like that they're in a relationship. Like those two, I loved those two, and I loved K2SO. Yeah. Those were my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah.
And if they ever get the inkling to do like a comic book series about them, of a prequel, like how did K2SO become who he is, or how he acts and everything, but like with the reprogramming or anything, I would take it.
I think they could definitely do a comic about that. I think they could. Like a movie or an animated thing, I don't think so, but I definitely think they could do a comic.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. It'd definitely be more suited for the comics since they're still running Rebels at this point.
Yeah.
So we had DC, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, you're shaping up, and now, how did you get into cosplay?
How did I get into cosplay? Well, in general, I've always loved to dress up and become different characters. Kind of growing up as a single child, I kind of had to make up characters to play with sometimes, because I would be at school and then, I'd have certain activities, but I'd have a lot of time alone. So I just go into this fantasy world and I would dress up as these different characters. And as I got older, after high school, I started realizing exactly what cosplay was, and I would put together different outfits. And over the last few years, I would say that I actually became a quote real cosplayer in the sense that I'm not just wearing outfits, I'm actually portraying a character. So it all started when I got, a basic bodysuit from, that was Batgirl style, and I started putting different accessories together, and people were like, "Oh, where did you buy your Batgirl costume?" And then, I just kind of put it together, and I was like, "Oh, well, okay, I'm onto something here." And then I finally got a cowl, and this and that, and so far I've been putting different things together, and making them my own, which is great, and been lucky enough to find some really good costume designers that work with me and take my measurements and, make beautiful custom costumes for me. And hopefully I'll be learning how to make these things very soon. I started buying the tools to do so, and there's some people that I might, apprentice under. So I would like to then give back and make costumes as well. That's the end goal.
That's a good end goal to have.
Yeah.
So I know we've talked about you do Batgirl and Supergirl.
Yeah, those are my two main, and I do smaller things like kind of Victorian style steampunk things that I kind of come up with as well.
Okay, awesome. And then I imagine you go to conventions and go in cosplay.
Yes, as much as I can, I go to conventions. MegaCon and AFO, I always try to attend. Always. I will also be at ToyCon on the 29th with my cosplay group, Age of Geeks Orlando. That's our new group here in Orlando. And we will have our first booth as a cosplay group, which is really exciting to have that, formal setup. Like, hey guys, we're, in Orlando now, we're a chapter. So that's going to be really exciting. ToyCon is one day. It's just the 29th. After that, we're doing MegaCon, maybe something else in between. Florida's really big for conventions. So every other week, it seems like there's a convention. So there's always new opportunities, and being a part of a cosplay group, I'm really lucky that we're able to, get entrance into some of these places and share what we do with other people and make connections so, we can make our group grow.
Absolutely. I know that I'm this year, my goal is to go to Star Wars Celebration, Wizard World Orlando for its first show, and then MegaCon.
Yeah, Wizard World I haven't been to. Just like ToyCon, that'll be a new thing for me. I will hopefully be going to that too. Obviously, definitely MegaCon. that's a definite.
Now, how I found you, normally I find people all the time like on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm like, oh, they would be kind of cool to like talk to for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And you, I had found you, someone else had posted your information about starting your business that you have, which is FanFit Go, and it was before you launched, and that's when I reached out to you for like setting up this recording. And just tell me about FanFit Go.
Well, FanFit Go is a customized system where geeky, nerdy people, cosplay, anybody in this type of community can get fit based on their unique needs. So no matter what your age, body type is, experience of working out, not experience of working out, it doesn't matter. I want to basically give back to the fandom community of all types and genres and help them get healthier. Because when I went through my car accident last year and dealt with all that, it was a real struggle for me to lose weight and get healthier again. And I want to be a source of support for other people that want to get healthier, because I didn't have that support necessarily when I was going through that. I was just kind of fumbling around trying to figure out what was going to work for me. And I don't want somebody to have that feeling like I did, that I didn't know how to get healthy and making all, mistakes along the way. I want somebody to feel like they have somebody in their corner and to make it as easy for them as possible. So I come up with a system based on that individual person to get them healthier. And I send them information online, workouts online, nutrition, meal planning online, everything that they need to be a healthier person, even to a certain extent what vitamins, supplements they might be able to do, how to figure out how much protein, carbohydrates they need. I mean, the whole 9 yards. I send it to them with a very small, modest monthly subscription. I literally want to help the community. So I've been doing that and marking it with what I do, what I love, my cosplay. I want to help my cosplay people.
Absolutely. And we all need to lose a few poundages or tone or be able to squeeze ourselves into that loincloth or spandex or whatever unforgiving fabric choice that's out there.
Well, that's the thing is that I've had so many people tell me throughout the years, I want to cosplay, but I don't know if I feel comfortable, going to a gym or just going with any big guy, muscle-bound trainer who's going to, sit there and bark orders at me. I don't know how to start, or I feel just uncomfortable going to a gym. I mean, you could even do workouts at home.
Right.
And I find that people tell me, you're an easy person to talk to. You understand, how I feel because you're a cosplayer. When I say how for example, I need my body to look to portray Superman, how I need to focus on, arm definition and how to look good in spandex, because it is not a forgiving fabric. That's true. And let's face it, everything is spandex if you're doing cosplay for the most part. I understand that. So that there's no need, to explain it with me. I'm right there in that type of life too. And it's fun to, see people's transformation. I mean, I just started, but had a cosplayer actually sign up today. Her name is Tracy. She's great. If you're hearing this, hi, Tracy. And she does a lot of steampunk. She does Supergirl also, all kinds of cool stuff. So I'm very excited to have her on there. And, if people are interested, I put them on my page too. I try to, make them feel like superstars, make them feel important, because they should feel important, because they make people happy by doing their art. So, I want to make them feel like the superstars that they should feel like.
And everything's online. Like, you're not going to come yell at me at my house, right?
No. I mean, of course, some people are going to need a little encouragement. Hey, make sure you do this and don't forget about that, and checking in to make sure that the workouts are going right. I will also send you videos and tutorials about how to do certain things, because reading something is always not enough. Sometimes you need to demonstrate it. I also put out certain videos and certain exercises and meals for free all the time on my page. So if you ever want to check it out, FanFit Go on Facebook, you'll kind of see some of the things that I do, some of the workout regimens that I do at home, because this is not just all about, here, do this. I want to show you how I'm getting fit, my journey, things that I eat, that I'm into, because it's, a mutual partnership. I hold myself accountable just like I have to hold somebody else accountable.
Right. And I know that you posted, maybe a week or so ago, you posted a soup, and I was like, oh, that soup looks good.
Yes. I made, I think you're talking about the tomato vegetable soup. Yeah, that was really good. We have a little bit of a cold period going on. I know, like, for Florida, you would think that it being, like, 50-something, 60 degrees, it doesn't seem like it's cold, but for us, it's cold. So, I'm thinking, what am I going to do to not be sick because of this drastic weather change from our normal 80, 90 degrees consistently? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a big batch of soup. All right, I think other people will like this, Vegetables, that's what I'm trying to teach people. Vegetables, having a balance of food groups, it could be fun, it could be interesting to eat. So I have those close-up pictures of me, stirring it, putting the ingredients in, and I try to, get people interested and make it seem exciting, because it's fun when I cook, and I want to share that with people, make them feel like healthy eating is fun, because it is, because when your body feels good, you're happy.
Right. And if you're looking good in a cosplay and getting those likes, you'll even be happier.
You'll even be happier, and
you'll have that self-confidence.
And let me tell you, when I lost weight, doing it the right way, healthier, because a lot of people will just think, okay, I'll just starve myself and do it. No, it's the terribly wrong thing to do. When you eat a good, healthy diet, it'll help, mentally and physically, it'll make you stronger. And when you put on that outfit, you feel like, wow, I accomplished something. I mean, and part of the reason why I lost weight and got fit was also to portray Batgirl better. I started taking kickboxing classes here and there. I don't always keep up with it as much as I should to learn how to portray her better. So I was like, once I got more fit, I was like, I'm going to try a kickboxing class. Batgirl does kickboxing. And it just all circled around together. So fitness and cosplay and food can all go together. And I've been lucky to, find you, be on podcasts like this to talk about my message, and also another YouTube channel called Cage Inc. I've been lucky enough to have them let me talk about my business on their YouTube channel. They talk about, comic books and comic book culture and everything like that. And because I'm helping cosplayers, they let me talk about my business there. So it's only been, maybe like a month or two, if that, and the response in the community has been overwhelmingly heartwarming and generous, and it just goes to show that I made the right decision to be a part of this community. I mean, I have no regrets.
Awesome. And for those people, I know you shouted it out already, but where can, especially for FanFitGo, where can they find you? Facebook.com/fanfitgo, or you can go on my website, which is www.fanfitgo.com, and that's where you find all the information about the customized workout plans, frequently asked questions, just fun cosplay stuff, everything. FanFitGo is slowly but surely becoming a fandom and fitness love affair together, and I hope that, people can join the community. Okay, and for those people listening that want to look into you, what's the best place for them to go? Like if you have a Facebook page or Instagram or... Instagram is fanfitgo _Katrina. And for Facebook, for my cosplay Facebook, I've now made my cosplay page Geek Unique Cosplay by Katrina. So if you look up Geek Unique, which is one word, you should find me. Okay, and for those of you listening, you can find that on our Facebook page or in the show notes on whatever podcast app you're listening to. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Katrina, thanks for taking your time tonight to record this, even with like the issues that we had at the beginning, but it got worked out. Yeah. Technical issues, but we're good. It turned out to be good. That's right. Absolutely. It has been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.